All right.
Where's Limestone
yeah.
Commons right here?
Okay,
then?
so we are on, guys.
Oh,
So,
we are? Okay.
okay. So
So it's just one little parcel that the town even owns right
It
there,
is recorded.
but it's not designated.
It's actually live.
Wait, I'm reading something wrong. Oh, it's wait, go back here. Yeah.
So if you want to
So this is
come,
the
we
neighborhoods,
have
the traffic.
Marissa
Why
on,
is that red?
and we
That
have
can't be
these
red, of
people,
course, that's a neighborhood. I'm
Nicole
looking at that wrong.
and Rich. Nicole has kids at home, and Rich said that he might be late. And
Might be.
Yes, Seneca. Yeah, right here.
Yes,
See
okay.
Seneca. This is true K.
All
How
right.
can that be commercial?
Is
This is
that-
all housing.
Well, great. Hi,
Are you
everybody.
sure, or is
Hi,
it-
everybody
Can I find your,
that's
Reading
Glasses.
glasses, yeah.
at
Oh,
home and who's watching later. Welcome to the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee meeting, our annual monitoring meeting
thanks.
for June sixth, 2024. Here we are, a year later. Welcome, welcome. And we have committee members here who are engaged right back into it, as you
Yeah.
can see,
I don't understand why that's
jumping
commercial.
in. And
That's the golf
I am no
course.
longer a town board member. I'm just a citizen jumping in with town councilor, deputy supervisor Sarah Bollinger. And here to cheer everybody on and to pay attention.
Mhm.
So I'll turn it right over to her.
So we're joined by Marissa Mims, Kay Gallery, Carrie Catalano, and Don Gates. Some of the other steering committee members have had things come up at the last minute, which I am sorry for, because we did think more people would be here. But we are live and we will be recorded, so there's opportunities for people to follow along. So the plan for today is, okay, oh, just hit go. Okay, so our agenda for today is to do welcome, a little overview of accomplishments, discussions of goals for the future, and then a little summary of just where we are at the moment. Does that work for everybody? That's good. So I wanted to share with you, I organized it according to the way the plan was organized. So for goal number 1, environmental protection and sustainability, some of the things that have happened are the watershed stewards. So Don, you want to take a minute and just explain watershed stewards?
Okay, watershed stewards, where am I looking anywhere? Watershed stewards is a group of about, I want to say started with about 4 of us, 5 of us. Sarah, myself, Will, and then a couple other residents joined in, and we keep having new residents join in to this group to discuss 2 big issues. Flood control or water management, looking at the impact of water and flooding and drainage. And then the second one, looking at water quality. But I think our main focus has been just educating the public about what a watershed is and the impacts of water on people living downhill. So we've had meetings on a monthly basis since, when did we start? I'm thinking April, May last year? No, or June, maybe June. We started in June and we've been meeting every month. And we've actually done some tours of different areas such as the Minoa Sewer Treatment Plant. We've had guest speakers, somebody from the DEC, I'm forgetting her name. No, yeah, DEC, yeah. So we've had, what's been great is that we've had a core group and not just of Sarah, me, and Will, but actual residents coming every month. And then we've had speakers such as one of the town supervisor, not town supervisor, the highway
engineer.
And the town engineer. So we're gathering information.
And Dr. Carter.
Yeah, and then we had Dr. Carter at the library. So the small little group, the people, I just keep in amazement because I think everybody does a part. And we're really still, I would say, in the infancy stages of educating people and figuring out what we can do. We did have a small little accomplishment. In Three Falls Woods, there's flooding issues there and erosion issues. And working with the Onondaga County Soil and Water, they're gonna help us plant trees there.
That's awesome.
No cost to the town or well, it's on the village land, so no cost to the village. So that's one more piece of raising awareness. But we could also see the importance of raising awareness about water and land uses. I don't know how many of you guys caught the article in the Eagle Bulletin about the Eagle Scout Trail.
Yeah.
that probably is not gonna help water. That's gonna create more flooding issues.
Oh, my
Yeah.
gosh.
Because as we learned from Dr. Carver,
Yeah.
one of the most important things is you want in an area is friction. Like we learned all about
Oh,
like
right.
certain farming leads to more water. How big lawns can create, it'd be like a concrete pad for water going down. So Three Falls Woods is actually was designated a critical environmental area. And so I think that's why it's important that we revisit documents that are created to make sure we don't forget about them. So I think in fairness to the village, they thought they were doing a great thing, allowing this Eagle Scout to do this trail, but they basically built a highway. I don't know if you go there, it's like a road. And that water is, and the one thing when we had the soil and conservation scientists look at it, is it just so happened, it was completed right after his walkthrough, or right before, it's all gonna wash away in the first big storm. I don't say wash away, but it's gonna have an impact.
Yeah.
And it's gonna end up causing flooding for people down, because all that bark mulch they laid is gonna come running down.
Wow.
So again, but I think it shows why the group is important to educate and to get people to understand these areas. And what was also funny was in the article, it talks about biking back there. Biking's not really allowed back there, but the Central New York Land Trust land, because again, that creates erosion, walking, they put, so, but they don't know that, right? And that's, in fairness to them, he thought he was doing a good thing, bringing this trail, right? So what we're learning is that it's a complex problem, right? People have private land, public land, and how do you educate people that what I'm doing on my land, even though I think it looks great for me, may be impacting somebody down. So we're thinking constantly about how to educate. So we're going to do a series this summer of a walk at Perry Springs. And then we have another one where we're going to walk the Three Falls Woods area. And then another walk in the fall at Mill Run Park. Correct? Do I have that right?
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, so,
How
but
are you advertising that?
thanks to
We
the
just
town's
started.
website. Yeah.
We have a student intern who's just starting that.
Yep,
So this is
advertising, but we
awesome.
also have a website, like it's a sub piece of the town. So if you go to the town's webpage, so it's very important for the down your area where all the water comes down, and you'll see on Manlius Center Road, that area, right?
Yeah.
So, and what was fascinating, we went to one meeting, Steve and I, to a group, and a person who's lived in Manlius, I was like, didn't realize flooding was an issue, but he lives up on a hill.
Right.
So I think over time, we will have an impact. I think what's great is to see that there are people out there that are interested in not just coming to the meeting, but doing the work. What I say is, and it's not just one person part of the group. And what's also been interesting was it's also given a vehicle for people who've been frustrated to come and talk. We've had different landowners come and talk about their issues. So I don't know, it's been exciting. It's been exciting to see what this group started out in the steering committee, to see it translate into an action.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so.
And you've also applied for grants, I think, or you've been able to put together information that's going into grants, I
That
think.
Perry
Yes.
Springs grant was from this group.
Yes,
That's
matter of fact, citizens groups, I think, are very important to groups because it shows you have stakeholders that are engaged in a project. So, and I think what's important is I don't think the town ever wants to be seen as just 8 people in a room making decisions.
Right.
This is one more avenue for people to participate and to be heard. So,
That's a perfect segue to the tree commission, which has also been busy. So Heather, you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so the tree commission has been very busy. It's the 20th anniversary of the Tree City USA designation for the town. And lots of great neighborhood projects, including a grant that the town earned approval for $75,000 for a 2-year project, an inventory this summer, and then that data will be used for a forest management planning program for how to manage our right-of-way trees and how to plan for when we have the next blight, the next storm, as we see, the ages of the trees and understand what's coming, how to plan ahead. And really knowing things like, hey, we had a hard time, for example, with the solar project coming in, knowing what what particular, we may hear from the solar folks, oh, well, we put these sorts of evergreens in all the time. They may not be understanding, hey, this is the particular kind of evergreen that works for us for these reasons, and we need to have on hand the right kind of information locally. And that tree inventory provides that kind of data. So that Davy Tree professionals will be working with us along with the Cornell Cooperative Extension team. And that will happen this summer. And we're grateful to the highway team as well for working with us. And yeah, that's pretty exciting. We're pretty thrilled to do it.
So following up a similar question that Kay had, is there a place if someone wanted to learn about the tree commission, what they're doing, where do they go?
Absolutely. The email is treecommission@townofmanlius.org, and there's a place on the town's website where there's information as well.
About it as well. And when you said you worked with Cornell, you guys, the tree stewards program, if they have the stewardship where they go around pruning everything?
Exactly. All capable. We have a wonderful, there's basically Leanna, who is the person who basically is the liaison for all the tree commissions in our area, works with us, and she provides educational projects. She's the one is hired within the grant to write up our forestry management plan and help us to implement
To
it.
think about like how to prune these trees and how to keep them managed, because it's a huge task. So I saw
Absolutely.
them doing it in the city, just trying to maintain their trees.
Absolutely.
So that's great.
Yeah, and and also really to help incentivize and help our team. We work with Bartlett, we hire Bartlett as a town, we hire a tree service as a town, and Bartlett has our contract now, and they do pruning large scale for us. But there are moments, of course, where our own team, a highway team, does pruning, and so they need to be trained on certain things, and that's when Leanna provides that
The
training.
Cornell people, right? Yeah.
And
And
then,
that's also with citizens.
and citizens get trained too.
participation.
Right, yeah, that's
So
what
we
I
did
saw in
a-
the city, because I participated in one summer. It was really fascinating.
That's
Learn how to
awesome.
prune trees, yeah.
We did a pruning workshop here on our the apple trees that are down here, and yeah, we would love to do that. We do a lot of planting with youth. We did a cool planting activity with the Courtyard Club at Wellwood, and in Manoa Elementary. We work a lot
I'm
with.
wondering if any of your people that are doing the plantings would want to be involved in the planting this fall when they plant the trees in Three Falls along the street.
Oh, yeah, they would love, I think maybe
'Cause we
William
were
may
gonna
have
have-
told us, and if not, we should definitely
Because
connect.
we're gonna have the Conservation Corps, am I saying?
Oh,
it
yeah,
right?
yeah,
To
Onondaga
help
Earth Corps.
them. Onondaga Earth Corps, that's it, to do the plantings, but it would be good to have somebody from the tree commission just witness what's happening and how important it is that we maintain these trees, because they get planted, but it's important to keep them maintained.
Great, I'm gonna
Because
follow up with
pruning
you.
helps keep the health of the trees.
Thank you for that.
So then moving on to the EV chargers puzzle. So they're not actually there yet, but over on the side where the New Mexican place is, there's a telephone pole. That's where the power is going to come for the EV chargers. So it'll be that little parking lot there is that there's like 6 spaces there. 2 of them will be EV chargers. And that's put on by the Sustainable Manlius, which also has a page on our website. So all of these projects, if people want to be interested in that. And then they also put on Earth Fest 2024, which was about a month ago. And I think many of us attended that. So it was fun.
That was a good event.
So community care, so goal 2 is community character and quality of life. For this one, we established something happened with my spacing, I apologize, that freaks me out. But we established a study group for an aquatic center that actually officially began this week.
Yeah,
So-
we had a second meeting.
Okay, so you can tell us a little bit.
Yep, so Marissa, if Marissa's on, she was at the meeting as well, and we had a couple of other Board of Ed people from FM, and basically, they're rolling out a survey to get to collect the data, to apply for grants to move forward with it. So we just need to, so they did a little survey, some feedback at the Earth Fest. They got some of that data, and then they want to take it a little further and compile more data. So right now we're forming committees to write, or subcommittees to write the surveys, and also research grants.
So let me
that's-
be clear, the school districts have not committed to anything, but.
No, they
are
have school
willing to
districts,
learn.
nope, they're willing to learn and they just want to see how, but no, the district is not.
So
school
what's their
district-
caution,
For what?
not
Well, they-
committing, or like, or is it
So
just?
I think also the school, I think for the town, you benefit more the people of the town. Water, water therapy, not just competition.
Mhm.
Where if you had it as an act, something available to the town itself. And then the teams from the schools use that.
Gotcha.
It's almost like
Uh,
the schools have done the long term, they've done the case over and
Yeah.
over and over, and it's like, that's figured out, so
Yeah.
the town really needs
So
to.
the town is really the lead and the school is a willing partner, in a sense. Would I characterize that correctly?
Could be.
Marissa, do you think that sounds correct?
Right, so, the issue of the district having a pool has come up a number of times over the years. And we've just done as a district, a building condition survey, and we also have a project at the high school. And if you look at how much, aid we would not be able to receive for this project, and the fact that we would not be able to put it at the high school, a pool at the high school. Not only that, there's a number of other critical facilities issues that we have that the district needs to focus on. So we've had a lot of parents who've come to us asking about a pool because the swim dive team has to travel quite extensively to use the pool for practice. And they were using one at Casnovia, but of course Casnovia closed. They were using the one at Calvary Club, but that's not good during the winter months. And there were also some other issues with that. So my understanding is the town is taking over the leadership of this particular project. And we discussed the fact that, if you were to have a pool or at a school, right, it's going to be closed to the public during the school day, more likely. It's going to be primarily for the use of that swim dive team. And whereas what John has proposed to look at is a aquatic center that benefits all the residents. So there's something for the swim dive team, there's something for seniors, there's something for families who are not participating in organized swimming. So yesterday, or Monday, he spoke about, there was a lot of talk about perhaps working with the county. But yeah, they've developed two different groups. One is a survey group to look at getting more information from community members. And the other one was the, as Carrie was saying, the grant one, looking at getting seed money. I believe the number, and Carrie, maybe you could remember, it was $500,000 that needed to be established before going to the next phase. So I'm not quite sure. I think there's a lot of devil in the details that kind of have to be put together.
I think that's the point of the survey is that, and I asked John, what do we need? Because I was thinking about a time frame like 2 or 3 years, where I said, how many people need to be surveyed to get adequate data? To get that data, John said 5,000 people. So if we have 5,000 people to fill out the survey, we could have that data to support applying for grant funding. And then that grant funding would be where we could hire an engineer to come, site survey, that type of thing. Do we need a 4-lane pool? Should we do a 20-lane pool? And then if you go to the comprehensive plan, it's that age and place thing, where the water competition, a competitive pool is not gonna get you, it's not gonna get a lot of votes. Yes, you need to make it available to the whole.
Well, I think that's a
community.
better solution, because I just go back to the survey that was done with the high school students, and the schools just, they need places to go.
Right.
Exactly.
This would be better that it's not part of the school, because it wouldn't be cool to go to school, it'd be cooler to go to the.
Well, and then,
center.
and then
And
the
then you
one.
could have associated businesses close by.
Yeah.
Right, and so.
And we were thinking, like, even with the aquatics is not just the aquatics, think it's long term, where John did have people ice skating rink
That's
and
what I
an
would think,
indoor
yeah.
track, and you have
Becomes a real public gathering.
a rec center, and then if you make it to where, you create trails around it, and so you're able walkable, and so it makes the community more appealing.
Yeah.
I think it's great, you guys are, it's incredible to see how much has been done in a short
And this is
time.
another resident-driven activity.
It is, it
For
was.
sure.
And I think it's got bigger, Marissa, thank you for that overview, of just the issues with schools, but I think this is the way to go too. I think that's exciting to me as a resident.
I just anecdotally, I was at.
Oh,
Fast
absolutely.
Food.
I think it's a wonderful way to bring together people from the community, and there's talk of having it in the ESM part of the district, which I think is really nice. idea because there's more land, I guess, available out in the area. So this has the potential to really get traction because everybody will be able to participate and use this. It'd be everybody's center. So I'm excited about it.
It did bring up, a couple of members said something, well, can we partner with Pompeii and that, we're not there yet. I think and it's definitely about the funding,
It's a lot.
it would need some private funding too.
Yeah.
But
But I
that's
think
all.
Marissa just brought up a point, I think I heard right, but just making sure it connects to the north side of Manlius.
Yep.
Right, so I think that's,
Absolutely.
because I think you would see it creates more sense of a community, because often it seems like this is Manlius, right?
Yeah.
You forget about all these great places down that way.
And you'll have so
Right.
many people around the area use it, not just people in the town of Manlius. use
And
it.
then I think it would help with the pressure that's like at the Y for the pool, because if you ever go there, the pool is used so often, and the pool at the village.
Hamlet.
ladies.
Exactly, it's
Yeah.
completely oversubscribed, exactly.
Yeah, so I think that's great, and it's exciting to see residents getting engaged and involved, and thank you for your leadership on that.
Well, yeah, lots of
There's so
work to
many
be done.
amazing parents on it. I have a family though, I was at Fast Bees on Sunday and I heard a woman who was walking with another woman and they were walking with little children. And she was saying something like, yeah, well, we may, but we'll stay here. If they build that pool, we are staying here for life.
Yeah.
I heard her say that as she was walking by and I was like,
Just like the
"Ooh."
heat.
I thought that was hilarious. I was like, oh my goodness, and very definitive. And I didn't expect to hear that.
And then going off the historical documentation that you were saying earlier about this history, not forgetting. And one of it is we forgot what's taken place historically with having a pool. It was voted down, but it was voted down, you're talking 35 years ago. Well, people are like, well, it was voted down so many times. Well, no, is that really accurate? We need the accurate historical documentation of
And
the
how it
pool.
was pitched, because I also talked to people who were very much involved, with it, who regret, who were leading against it. They realized in hindsight, it was a poor decision.
Mhm.
So,
It takes so much work to get there, as you know, that it is also, there were people who weren't there to charge forward in the same way and have all the pieces together. They have people who are willing to carry the ball on the grant side and willing to do the 5,000 person survey and have to do presentation guide. And so I think missing pieces for carrying the ball all the way campaign wise forward with it.
I think also
you know.
people, I think, are coming to the realization how important public spots are,
Because there are none.
because they disappeared in the day, so yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's the involvement of this, it started off with a group of parents wanting more for our community.
Yeah.
So I think just making sure that engagement stays in play, it's very important.
Yeah,
I
and it's
have-
long-term, so it's
Yeah.
hard to keep the energy going. for life.
Gotta keep it going.
Okay, so here we are. So the other thing we did is the planning department created a development planning committee. So I believe, I know Carrie knows, but there's been a lot of bigger development plans in the town of Manlius recently. 3 new apartment complexes being planned. So the planning department said, what we need to do is if somebody's gonna do something big, there's an extra step in the process where and we talk with the school district and fire department. So with these other organizations that say, if you're gonna bring a big apartment complex, you gotta find out you gotta warn the school that this is coming, have them be part of the decision-making and kind of work through that. So this is a brand new process that's gonna be coming for when there's a bigger type development. Now, right now,
Not put obstacles, but rather just to give those folks information so that they're coming with better information.
get better information and part of the solution. So, and I'll give you one very concrete example is there's a apartment complex that's planning to use a pond. The Fayetteville Fire Department has no water in it because I don't know if you, but the Green Lakes is actually in the Kirkville Fire Department. So Fayetteville doesn't have, so they have no water rescue gear. So when they said, oh, we're gonna build an apartment on a pond, they said, well, we're gonna need water rescue, so it's like these very small, concrete, just something to think about
Considerations,
before you
yeah.
go ahead and do something. So these are the kinds of things that this planning department is gonna try to do. And we are involving the schools because if you bring in an apartment with lots of families, that's gonna impact the school. So,
Yeah.
those are
So
the kinds of
when you
things.
said planning department, is that a separate group you're saying, or the?
It's just a
planning-
part of the town, it's a planning department.
Oh, the town, right, okay, gotcha, okay, gotcha.
And then the other thing which does not show because something went squirrely with my slides here is we are working on ours. You remember we talked about the form-based zoning project. We did not win the grant that we applied for last year. We are applying for it again. And so hopefully we will be to do that bigger zoning project also. So the third goal was welcoming and healthy neighborhoods. Here I want to share a very exciting development, which is our neighborhood sidewalk program. So this little graphic, there's a whole presentation on this on our website you can check out. But speaking of surveys, they surveyed everybody in the underserved neighborhood. And so the blue dots are the people that we believe would be actually in the sidewalk district, which mean the people who would contribute to the cost of the sidewalks. And then the green dots are other people who were in favor of the sidewalks. So that's a process that's in place right now, and it just launched in Mott Road as well. So we're on the Mott Road School. So this is another area where I think, again, resident engagement, moving along with things that the comprehensive plan said, would be a good idea, but they're costly and they're time consuming, and this is a way to get that rolling.
And that was
So
fun.
Mott Road is trying to do something similar to what Enders Road is, you say,
Yes.
okay.
Monica Browning kicked it off.
Yeah, they want sidewalks that cover the walking paths to school more completely,
Yeah.
yeah, same way as Enders, they're like, yeah.
And then the other thing we want to say is that same apartment complex that's going to have a pond is going to incorporate walking trails that are open to the public that go down to Limestone Creek. So that was another thing. They're also having a percentage of their apartments committed to workforce family income level. So they're going to have a portion of the apartments that are rental capped. And they're also going to have a portion of the apartments that are built in the beginning to be handicap accessible. So not retrofitted, built from the start.
And that's right across from Town Square.
Yes.
Right, so when you think of welcoming neighborhoods, that's an unfriendly neighborhood in terms of walking, right? So
Yeah.
there's no sidewalks on the
But that's
opposite
another
side.
part of the
Huh?
plan. That's also in the.
Yeah,
plan.
they're,
When they build those apartments, you mean you
Yeah.
have sidewalks on both sides or just the one side?
they're, working with the county.
We're working with the county.
Legislator Olson to
Because it's a
build,
county,
well, just because it's expensive and the developer,
Yeah, and Burdick Street is a county street.
and yeah.
that's what I was wondering, so it's a county, so, but that is the goal, to have sidewalks
The
on
goal
both
is to have
sides.
sidewalks at least on one side.
Yep, up to the Erie Canal.
Yeah.
Entrance
But
up
would
there.
you have it on both sides? Because there's not, it's always odd that it's not in the core land, and it's a shame.
Well, I spoke to CORE recently. I mean, CORE is considering participating.
Because I think it would help them, again,
People walking from getting
kids
their
wanna
car
walk,
fixed.
well, that's all my kid does is in ninth grade. I'm gonna leave, at the end of the day, I'm gonna go walk with my friends, they walk to Green Lakes, but
Mhm.
you want safe, you want. welcoming
Well, you
neighbors.
want people safe, yeah.
Yep.
So definitely
That's-
that is part of the plan is to have some kind of
It's great, and I think these
pedestrian
other.
and
si-
bicycle safety
yeah,
along that
Right,
structure.
so and I think as you get these other projects going, that builds momentum when people see that change, so
Yeah.
that's.
And I'm
again,
seeing that in the planning board meetings,
Mhm.
because they're leaning on the comprehensive plan to make this,
That's awesome.
to make the.
Yeah, and when they talked to the, that Verizon facility, they talked about
Yeah.
sidewalks. So there definitely people are predicting sidewalks being there.
Yeah.
Goal 4 was diverse and local commerce. We did participate with the Small Business Week and the Shop Local promotions. I did want to share the update. We did say in the plan we participate in the Business Mentor Program, but New York State discontinued it. And then we are working, this also relates to Burdick Street. We are working with the Village of Fayetteville and Onondaga County and actually New York State around a New Work Forward application, which is for the Burdick Street corridor. So that would be where some of that sidewalk work, but also some business development.
Mhm.
That's kind of like a huge conversation, so it's more like stay tuned.
It's a multi-year, yeah.
It's like a gigantic thing, but it's basically like reimagining how you think about, yeah.
That corridor, that.
Yeah, can I ask you though, with that, have we been touched 5? Getting sidewalks on 5?
We have touched it.
Yeah,
It
Okay.
is going, because of the drainage and the fact that it's a New York State road. So the idea is we're gonna put it in the plan but it'll be like phase 5.
That's what I figured, right? But it's still, I mean,
Yeah.
and as long as it's being discussed,
Yeah.
because bridging where the bus comes
Well, and
down.
people walking down from Homewood to Town Center.
Someone got
Someone
got hurt today?
Oh, really?
Yeah. There was
Well, I think the challenge, yeah, and that's why I think it's great. Anything that, those presentations that we had part of the comprehensive plan were helpful, but just, that town square is, I think, got unlimited potential in a way, because it's so centrally located, but just rethinking,
Yeah.
but that's down the road.
so that's New York
Okay.
forward is to rethink your downtown,
communities,
and the town doesn't have a village, but our downtown is kind of that corner, so.
Well, in a way, the town does have villages. It's the 3 villages. We always want to see them as partners,
Yeah,
not as
and the
obstacles.
Village of Fayetteville is partnering on this.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
So we want to have modern mobility, which also relates to walking and biking. So we did participate in the Syracuse Metropolitan Transportation Council study. We are currently with that. Councilor Nicholson is still engaged with that project. And that's a bicycle path, safe bicycling all the way from Manlius to Manlius. So using the canal for part of it and the street for part of it. And so that is something that is under consideration right now. We also are purchasing more EVs, and we bought these speed signs for neighborhoods that request a speed tracking sign. So these are portable. You can take them to a pole, and then after a couple, 3 months, take them down and move them to a different pole and kind of move around the neighborhoods for where the people are concerned about speeding vehicles.
The traffic calming.
Yeah.
Signs.
So we're excited about that.
That's for town, not villages, right?
Well, the
gotta get
villages
that in the
have them
village.
too.
Huh?
The villages have them too.
The villages have them too?
Yeah.
Okay.
So goal 6 is effective, responsive, and collaborative government operations. We established the monitoring group, which is you. The other thing we did, which we had talked about, was making sure that all the board members, because there's a lot of fresh board members, that they understood their responsibilities under the environmental quality review. So we did do a training for everybody on that. There is also a recorded training for anybody who couldn't attend in person. So that was one of the objectives that this group had recommended. Oops. Overshot.
Sarah, something that maybe you all did after put these together was applying as a pro-housing community.
Yes, we did just do that too.
So do you want to describe what that was about?
So pro-housing community is going along with New York State's awareness that we just literally have a housing shortage, that a pro-housing community is going to be, which we were going to do anyway, is in terms of modifying your zoning to be more friendly of more diverse housing options for people. Usually that means a little bit more density, perhaps smaller lots or perhaps less road frontage, and be ways where you would permit greater density of housing or more apartments without changing the character. So you don't have to just say build anything anywhere, but
Right.
you could say, all right, we would, for example, if there'd be a place where it would allow a 2-family house, that neighborhood, you might say, well, you could also have a 4 or 6 unit apartment, not an 85 unit apartment, but one of these 4 or 6 unit apartment buildings in that neighborhood without radically changing the neighborhood. So those are the kinds of recommendations of being a pro-housing community.
Would it
is trying to-
Also include like having like somebody on their house being able to add like an addition, so it's like
Right.
like a grandmother, like a.
In-law suite.
Yeah.
Yes, in-law suite.
And town is working on that now too. Also, it is the pro-housing community certification is required to get a lot of the other government funding. So for example, we can't get the New York Forward money unless we're a pro-housing community. So those are some of the ways that New York is exercising its influence to try to encourage.
Are you seeing any resistance to that conversation? I mean,
The way
that,
that it's phrased this time, it's much better than the last time. The governor basically said, if we want to put something in your neighborhood, we just will. And
Right.
People didn't like
well, I was
that.
just wondering, I'm just wondering too, like neighbors saying, accepting, yeah, like, I don't want to
You absolutely will have that. So
Yeah.
that's part of why this is, the pro-housing community is also a community education opportunity, is to say this is why, and the additional density has to be within where the density can be managed,
Mhm.
because what the main thing anybody in the town of Manlius complains about is traffic.
Oh, no.
So if you can't manage what you're proposing, people
Right.
will oppose. But then it also, you know, if you were to put a big apartment complex, it's gonna influence the schools, it's gonna influence the wear and tear on the roads and bridges, I mean, all of these things, so you have to consider the
Right.
full.
Well, that's where having partners in the village, because you want to concentrate these developments near the main roads.
Right,
Because anything more on these extra, nobody's gonna be able to get through the villages.
right, and that's one of the, one of the principles of the plan is smart growth, which is
Right.
infilling where there's already water and sewer and not going out into the country. So the goal is to keep the country and infill around the villages with some of these other things in areas where it's appropriate and convenient.
And you're right, you can get on and off, but not like smush in the. the
Right, well,
busiest
that's why I see like town square as being such a opportunity in terms of places for people to live without creating more traffic.
Mhm.
Like, let's say building big complex down on the north side, so it just brings traffic to the village, right?
Yeah.
You want to concentrate, because then that's an easy getaway to the city, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Like.
Core, I mean, I'd be fascinated to know what Core is thinking about for their longer term plans. I know that originally at some point in time, they thought they would build housing on top of
Really?
town center, yeah.
That would be
that was-
awesome.
That's the original concept, had housing as mixed use, so way back in the day, so I wonder, thinking about the way retail goes, or just their opportunities, whether they'd ever do that, but I mean, yeah, we'll see, but I think that, I'm glad, I know there was just a thing that Center State CEO, that, the head of EDR, Joanne Gagliano, and Andy Brewer of Huber Brewer wrote, talking about the pro-housing community and how, pro-housing task force and how important it is, and trying to get everyone behind it, saying like, if we care about all of this growth that we're talking
Right.
about, this is just one of the pieces of the puzzle, like, we can't have micro and basic accessible if we're not gonna also do this, and so that means that our local municipalities need to structurally do this stuff, and neighbors have to be open. We have them. We've been
So
doing
is there,
it.
when you said pro-housing community, but is there a specific task force for that, or is that just the
Not
planning
at the
department?
moment, no, it's, right now, it's a state form.
Gotcha, but there's no like town thing looking at it like
Yeah.
the pool force, the.
Yeah,
aquatic
Not
center
at the
for-
moment.
Yeah.
No, but it's things like having that planning committee where you say actively, like,
Mm.
hey, let's make sure.
Right, that's
we're
what I'm
coordinating.
thinking, yeah,
Yeah,
because I just see this being the $1 zillion question, it's how they're ever gonna resolve my product. Nobody wants an apartment, everybody at Clay doesn't want an apartment in their neighborhood, you can see in the paper, right? So those, people are gonna have to live somewhere.
yeah, right.
And we're already short, and then if
Yeah.
50,000 more people move in, what are we gonna do?
Right.
So let's talk about that. What are we gonna do? What are some priority actions that so you mentioned that the town center is an opportunity, that there might be things.
I think
we can
another
expand
thing,
there.
just seeing what's happening, and I think we need to be thinking in terms of these connections between the village and town. Like, I'll just take like the Glen Cliff neighborhood where I live. We need to understand these connections, and I don't think it's hard, like, I couldn't even picture your neighborhood, right? So if I was on the town board, I would have no understanding of the dilemmas that you have.
Mhm.
And I really think maybe it's something we almost, because it bothers me to no end that this dispensary was just considered as no big deal. But I worry every day about somebody getting hurt there at that intersection, because the traffic, ever since Limestone Commons has gotten so popular between the different events and all those businesses filled up. And just wait till those other businesses, I don't know if you've seen all the apartments that are going in the village of Manlius, like the people redoing some of the buildings. It's just gonna be more foot traffic, more people walking, and then people up in the Glen Cliff and those other neighborhoods, Waterville Street, kids walk up and down, and there's more biking than ever. And I'll just say is, this person who lives in my neighborhood who's biked to DC, he's a big biker, he bikes to work. He says that's the most unsafe street he's ever been on Seneca Street, Seneca and 173. So I do think we need to, like, he's scared every time to ride his bike there. Because again, there's no sidewalk on one side. The sidewalk starts and then ends. The road is skinny, and what people do is, because the traffic gets backed up, somebody's turning left into the Y, people go around, and there could be a family walking along. And so any other additional business on that side, that's like the frame shop right now, there's a knife sharpener, you don't want to add. As a matter of fact, I thought the goal was housing, so why aren't we encouraging housing along that area, not businesses?
So you're talking about the village parts there.
But that's townland. The town was,
Yeah,
that's why I
that
came to the
section
town
is town.
board and I
That's
said, why
town.
are we building here?
Meanwhile, you got village commercial space and town commercial space that the dispensary could easily go. You know, we want to be predictable too. You don't want to be always doing zoning variances because the guy who owns invested in the shopping area is trying to get businesses. The only reason the dispensary wants to go there, I'll tell you right now, because my guess is it's cheap.
Right.
You know, so we want to, and I think the importance of a comprehensive plan would be predictability, right? So if you're investing, buying a house that's like where your concern was, right? You bought to live there for a certain character, is how do we maintain characters in the neighborhood? So I don't know how we look at it, but almost like, how do we revisit these key, like, how do we make sure that we're addressing your concern, right? We should almost like look at these little neighborhoods that sort of get lost.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Because I was thinking of you, your concerns when the dispensary and they're saying, oh, what's the big deal? One more, and then,
Right, but it is
then
a big deal.
it's a precedent, right?
And they're not going and staying for it. It would be like a lot of,
Well, what I worry about is, because I've seen how popular these other,
Traffic.
yeah. But then you set the precedent, wait, if they can go there, then why can't I open up another type business that has a lot of traffic, right? Versus a knife sharpener, which is there, or,
Where are you talking about, the knife sharpener?
he's right across the street from Limestone Commons. He's got a sign outside that says
Oh,
knife
that's right.
sharpener.
Okay.
But it's a house, it's guy's business in
Yeah,
his
yeah,
backyard,
okay.
and those are fine. But to me, that's a great opportunity for housing along there. That we should be promoting housing and not converting houses into businesses. Does that make sense what I'm saying there?
so so
Yeah, so we
where
don't
is,
have
so
any-
I have here, I circled community character, that's
Yeah, because that goes under,
the predictability of if I live in the country, if it's gonna stay country,
or if I live in a neighborhood where
if I wanna set my business in a commercial area, it stays a commercial area.
and that not another spot suddenly opens up as being available to commercial. Because now you've eroded the other person's investment, you know, and then you create vacancy.
That's a good thing, thinking about sort of in the midst of change too. And thinking about how we're talking about all this change, it's good to think about.
Because we always say we don't want to retard, you know, and retard's not the right word, we don't want to mitigate people opening up a new business.
Right.
But at the
Or
same time, we
inhibit it,
have
yeah.
designated places to have a business. So let's stick
So
to
where is
that,
it going in?
right next to Will's house.
Yeah, so where 173 and Troop K hit,
Okay.
there's a little shopping plaza there.
It's like
It's across-
Domino's, Dollar Tree.
Yeah, but across the street from it.
Across the street from it,
There's a Silver Fox.
there's a few home-based
Oh,
businesses.
There used to be Nationwide Insurance used to be there, like an insurance business used to be in the building.
There's
It
a
used to be
car wash.
But
there's-
that's the other
The Dollar
side.
Tree?
Yeah,
Are you talking
The dog-
about where the dog, like the animal, there was like an animal salon there, I believe, across from the plaza?
Used to be a dog salon.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. So what I'm saying is that's a great street that on that side should be really more housing than any kind of commercial development. And I just worry about the erosion, you slip and you slide, you prove one thing and then you set a precedent.
I also, when you're talking about priorities with that, I think making sure we have enough green spaces. I think that's a
Yeah.
priority as well, where we have a lot of the building going on and the potential. I think there still needs to be a great deal of green spaces and walkable trails.
Yes,
I think that's a priority.
well,
in my mind.
and we
Oh, I
see,
know where you're talking about now.
and we see that with Three Falls Woods, the amount of traffic they're getting is that it's become popular and the Perry Springs is another great, but you're right. And that's where Will's saying like the bike trail, making sure, but making sure that we're preserving open space.
It's definitely needed.
something that I was thinking about for the Route 257 and the neighborhood sidewalk program, we're calling it a sidewalk program, but it's considering biking, and the idea of just safe, non-car navigating. I think that the study that was done in 2009 along Route 257 FM Road connecting, 257 going through, I think that it doesn't necessarily call for a traditional sidewalk anymore. I feel like people do wanna cycle on
Yeah.
there safely and they do wanna walk safely.
So they're called pedestrian walkways.
Exact, or protected
Yeah.
walkway. So whether it's like and you need to make sure that it's easily snow removal managed and all the rest of it. So updating that 2009 study. And, that's a project I'm gonna dig into as a citizen and try to, since I live so close to it and be in the catchment area.
My dad's neighborhood has
Okay.
one sidewalk, is a pedestrian walkway, which is a big. And then on the other side, is a sidewalk.
Interesting.
So it's two different sidewalks where you have one that you can bike on, golf carts can go on it. The other one is just for walking.
I don't know if it'd be wide enough, because the study basically says
Yeah.
that you could basically push the road over one and then have enough room, but
Yeah.
you know, maybe it's wide enough to be, but I'm wondering if there's
Well, they
like,
call it active mobility, so it covers
That's what it is.
scooter,
Yeah.
walking, biking,
That's the
whatever.
word. I couldn't think of the
But I
word.
think, you know, if you, in Syracuse, it's often painted green.
right,
So it's on the road, it's not actually a sidewalk,
Right.
but it's painted green.
right,
And it's clearly not
Yes.
for cars. And those are the kinds of things and some of the roads, and even on Burdick Street, if you get, once you're outside of a village, you know, do you really need to run the extremely expensive sidewalk all the
Or just
way
a part of the
to
road.
Fremont? No, but if you had a green striped section where you could bike
Mhm.
safely, people would definitely use
I
that.
think that's the key, is it's a safeguarding piece, where do you have a strip of median like in Syracuse?
or
where
the
you don't-
rumble strip
Yeah.
even, or how safe is it? Is a
Right.
rumble
Yeah.
strip, is it a,
You hit it right in the head, 'cause on that 173 area I'm talking about that goes into the village from, you know, down the hill, and then you enter Limestone Commons on that one side. That's gotten so private, but there's really no safe walking area. And you can't even bike on the one side because you got this big channelized area for water. So it's not. And I don't think the solution is, you know, John was saying that night was, well, don't worry, the business is gonna put in a sidewalk. I don't think it should be that way. It should really be, again, I think anything you can limit people coming and going into that other side, because I would envision the side opposite Limestone Commons as being like a walkway, like a dedicated,
Yeah,
because,
active mobility.
yeah, I like that term. What is it? Active
active
mobility.
mobility,
But
that's.
I think we should be looking at that, like, what are key areas that should be active
Because you
mobility?
wanna deal with traffic too, and you frankly wanna encourage people you wanna encourage me to get on my bike, to go run and grab my prescription at CVS or
Right.
my thing of milk,
Right,
instead of getting in my car and putting one more car on the road. That's what we wanna encourage and reduce that other traffic.
I think that would be great for
That's
five.
the goal.
And I think we also want to make you permit your son to go for a ride
Be more easily.
without worrying that he's gonna come back in.
That's
So.
it.
well, it's like my son, he really had this goal of riding his bike to high school, but he tried it once, he says that he felt unsafe,
Too dangerous.
too dangerous, so and that's a shame.
Right.
That
Because it's
kids-
not that far.
No.
That's it, exactly, so where we know and that's in other places in the world, because it's safe.
Yeah,
That's why they're doing it all the time, so we have these barriers just because of the infrastructure that's keeping us from using it as a regular way during our decent times of year. So we complain about the traffic all the time, we also want to improve our health by being more active, doing it this way, and yet we're not doing anything about the infrastructure for it.
right, but if you improve that, like, I love that phrase, active mobility, people feel tempted to get in their car to go, like, from my neighborhood, there'd be more people that might just walk down to Limestone Commons instead of getting in their car, right? And so now you've taken traffic out, so.
If we could show some of the metrics around, if we could start building the case for why it actually will work, we have to show people like actually how it's going to make that difference, because people will be like, oh, it's a nice to have versus something that's actually gonna make a difference.
Right.
And people will be like, well, we're just not gonna do it that much because it's still, the weather's terrible or whatever, you know, so I think we're just not there yet in a lot of ways, but
But I like that, it's almost like, instead of saying
But
no
COVID
to
showed
this,
us.
but I like the idea of identifying spots that should be active mobility and also protecting green space, because I think you have a lot of green space near you, right? That builds also, when you make those active mobility areas, you build social connection.
that's true too.
Yeah,
That's
and
true
I,
too.
and
People are
Age and
walking and
place.
talking.
and go into discussion of priority actions, I think continuing having those in those series and not stopping, continuing having their watershed, continuing having the, the pool
Right.
committees,
Because wherever the aquatic center is, you're gonna wanna make sure people can bike there, right? Or walk there, and, so I think like you said, I think when we can start a committee, I think it's good if you got people that wanna run it. And so it's been exciting about the watershed, I don't know how you feel about the street, it's not one or two people doing it.
Yeah.
It's a really a group effort, and hands make light work.
what about your side of town? What do you think?
I'm
should
just
be-
looking through some of the objectives that we didn't emphasize in the previous rally. One is to support farming and tourism. Is it the right time to do either of those, or is
Say
it
that again?
farming and tourism? Is that something that's?
Well,
I don't know much about the farming piece.
Casey maybe could say something to us about, the farming piece. And Sarah Gridley had talked to us also about like agro-tour. Gridley's have a lot to say about agro-tourism, and maybe you could speak to that. They wanted some zoning discussion with us about that. I think that, we had talked about being able to label or attract people and give people some information about the advantages that we have here, like the beautiful trout fishing and people obviously, like Aiden Media has probably done more online on social media for us than anything else. Aiden Media, if you're not already following them as a company, they do all that aerial footage. It's beautiful, AIDEN Media. They do these amazing aerial shots of like Syracuse and Green Lakes, and it make our community look so beautiful from above in every season. And so I just feel like, and there's Wander too. So I just feel like that's happening and we just need to like capitalize on it as a community. So maybe if the town decided to do a video or something like that, if there was, it sounds like, it sounds like we would be supportive of seeing the, these qualities and these things be represented in something like that. And we could talk about it next time, or you could always convene the committee to talk about that, or call upon us to feedback in if that comes up. And that's what I would say as from a committee perspective. If something comes up within the town that where you want the comprehensive planning committee's take on it, rather than convening a meeting, I would say shoot the group an email for feedback. I would suggest that. And consider us a sounding board. Do you all agree? Yeah. Anybody else? But yeah, the Gridley and agritourism, did you want to share about that?
No, I just think that is
Is Gridley a farm?
Yeah.
So they
The
want to be able to
idea
do agribusiness.
of agribusiness, agritourism is one thing, and then there was also the tourism, so just promoting Manlius as a site. One of the things.
Oh, like when they do the tour, the
Yeah.
farms and stuff.
That
would be
kind of
smart,
thing, is just to say, we've got cool stuff here, and there's nothing that the town is doing that's promoting the community in any, if you go to, Ithaca has like a whole campaign of things promoting Ithaca.
Right.
So that's the kind of thing that the question is whether that was, an area we thought would be a good idea, but part of this is you need to have recreational facilities for people to utilize. So, fishing is when I happen to live on the creek there. This year has been really big for fishing. A lot of people.
That's interesting.
And the high school has a fishing club now.
Oh,
Really?
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So
I would be wary to do something like around like the American Revolution, like we have a lot of stuff related to the American Revolution, like we were founded because of.
this is something and I think everybody that lives here overlooks it. My father, when he was here, was fascinated with the Erie Canal. We have a lock right
Yeah.
here.
Oh, yeah.
And he wanted
Oh,
to know
yeah.
how it worked and
Oh,
because
yeah.
the other, and that's totally something we could focus on regarding what's a little bit of.
Totally, because we have also the feeder canal, like we're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, there's a lot of Erie Canal history we could build on. for
Oh
sure.
my gosh, so much.
Well, yeah, this is where the county started too. Village of Manlius, I think. Is it the village of Manlius? or
Village Manlius is the
The oldest village, yeah. So,
And
And
Manlius
the oldest
is,
county was, the town of Manlius was much bigger than.
yeah,
Right.
but Manlius used to encompass
The
what
entire
is
county,
yeah,
Entire county, really?
which used to
Okay.
and the city of Syracuse was inside the town of Manlius. It just
Wow.
shrunk.
gotcha.
Yeah, it was
That's
fascinating.
interesting.
Yeah, it was huge.
But there's a lot
That
of
would
cool
be,
things.
something we could start with, because we have a canal, there's already people working on it, like, we wouldn't have to do this
Yeah,
from scratch.
I think coming up to the 250th, is it 250th?
Yeah.
Anniversary, there might be something we could do as a goal for that.
That's a good
Like a
idea.
website and like some sort of like some activity, something of the library maybe, or
I'm
our
thinking but I think
libraries.
the libraries would
I
have
think libraries
information
is
about
a
that.
great.
Yeah, like a tour website, some
People who-
things.
Then if you want to get controversial, add the Native American view of it.
Well, actually, yeah. No,
Because
I'm-
Yeah.
to them, it was the road to ruin.
Honestly,
It is, like,
Yeah,
when I did
Honestly-
when I did the museum.
yeah.
Well, honestly, so in the listening session, Casey had suggested, well, maybe you might want to commission a piece from, in terms of polishing the stone, like, or polishing
Link.
Yeah.
You could
Chain, link, it's a
Chain,
chain, polishing the chain.
polishing the
I-
chain, like working
a
on
lot
a
of
relationship.
Mental gyration there, but we.
Yeah, the concept of polishing the chain is working on your relationship with Indigenous people is to, we could commission a piece
Mhm.
from the
Yeah.
current, artist and whether it's a wampum belt or something. And for our collection at the town
Mhm.
and the archaeology program or something. So I think in our recognition of the Revolutionary War, we could also be like, hey, let's talk about this intersection of like the people and
Right.
the fact that
What can we learn from it?
like,
Yeah.
hey, yeah, look, it sounded like after the Revolutionary War, people were like, oh, hey, those soldiers didn't want this land, so we gave it to all these other people from
Yeah.
Connecticut, and how was that?
So I think that would be good for the,
So 250 years for the Erie Canal, huh?
Yeah.
That's
I
right,
run on that every day.
Huh?
I run on it every day.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
amazing.
I thought you think about it being the 250.
I never
years
learned about
from
it.
No, but I just like, I run on it every day.
Yeah. 'cause
Being in the
in the Midwest, we never learned about it, so it's just.
No, and from Philadelphia, like, my husband's singing the Erie Canal song, I'm like, what? I'm like, we learned about it in like one lesson, he's like, it's huge, I'm like, oh, okay, like, no. I
You
wasn't.
were able to
opened
get
up-
all your goods and
It
services.
opened up the West. Matter of fact, that's why you could,
It was a
Wait.
passageway, yeah.
well,
then
not
the
only
Whitman
that, what's fascinating about it is you could find
Close
every
and stitch.
representative form of architecture in the city of Syracuse at that, like in the 1920s or 30s, because every architect that was looking for a commission was heading out west. So they would stop here and do a house, they would do
Oh,
that.
that's fascinating. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so there's a
could
great
be
deal
something
of
for
history in this area, and then I'm sure there were businesses that were all built up. Remember, in Cazenovia lost on the Erie Canal. That's why Cazenovia shrunk. Because
Wait, what?
because the canal didn't go through them. Because they had all the businesses down there. Matter of fact, all
Because
those
they had a
businesses that had
turnpike, they
drive.
were the Bigfoots when, before the canal.
Yeah, before the
Yeah.
canal, so there was winners and losers of the canal.
Yeah.
And the canal goes through the center of Syracuse because of two families. They divided the land, they split it down the middle. Because you had the north side of Syracuse and you had the Salve area over there, I think it was. So the canal's interesting about that,
I
but
want to have that. I want to hear that story. That's so
It's
great.
almost like you're a teacher.
Yeah.
Content, Eric.
yeah, and just the engineering feat of it all is incredible. I mean, these guys didn't even know how to build a canal. They were
They did,
23 years old. They just went to England and figured
And
it
there's
out.
there's still remnants.
still
from it.
working.
It's
Still
still
working.
working.
And it's still a mosquito pick today.
But they built it so fast.
Yeah, they
If you don't think that, we can learn something from that.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Is there anything else that you've been thinking, the town really needs to make a commitment to expanding this thing or
I think-
developing this option or something?
I think just this, just reconvening and trying to keep getting people to look at the plan and saying what needs to be adjusted
Mhm.
or what needs to be firmed up, what can we do better? And I think listening to neighborhoods, like you brought concerns from your side, are those concerns being addressed? Because there's gonna be all kinds of pressure building.
And I
Oh
think
my
if
God.
we could communicate about the sidewalks being a district so that, because a lot of people already on our side are upset because, the assessments went up so much. And it's
Yeah.
like, how are we gonna, and then it's like, when you see things about sidewalks and it's like, well, we don't have, they're just gonna raise our
Right.
taxes more. So I think it's
Well-
really important to sort of convey that it's gonna be by,
I think-
district.
I think,
Communicating that portion, because then it's also like the pool thing. It's like, well,
Right.
how the hell are we
We're
gonna pay for that now? Like,
or the $2 million town hall. I think maybe that's a piece we should think about tackling next year, is helping, me too, helping them understand how taxes work and how doing a quality comprehensive plan could potentially lower taxes,
Yeah.
right? Because if you can lower your maintenance costs, if there's less road you gotta plow, or
Yeah.
more efficient services, right? But, what were you saying? Like, we want to show how actually the rec center would be a bonus, not a tax increase, right? In the sidewalks, right? That's a huge concern is, Sarah brought, like, you got to be able to plow these and maintain them, right? So I think somehow we should start thinking, maybe over the next years, how do we capture the understanding of the economics of it?
Yeah.
The actual,
I
like,
think
how
it's really
assessment works.
important,
Because I think, like, if assessments are going up, they're getting more money, but, right? So did services go up? But I think maybe somehow helping the community understand what are costs of services.
I think it's creating that platform to do so though. to make sure that information's getting out to them.
Yeah, that's one thing. I'm not even sure how to do it, but
I think there needs, if we do it during Earth Fest, or if we do it during the
Mhm.
Village
Right.
of Fayetteville Fest.
I would, yeah, and
Or
I would,
even just a quick like line when they do the articles or the PR about like, oh, the sidewalk
Right.
pollution and stuff,
Mhm.
just like a little like feeder, like. It's been discussed that sidewalks are gonna be districts, so I think that little caveat, one sentence
Mhm.
helps like dispel a lot of like anxiety
I
or
think that's a good
angst.
point. Like, or always having sort of the fiscal responsibility, uh, phrase and reminder when, you know, when the counselors are talking about them, the balance there, and also reminding, you know, the Jason Claver, the or reporters, like, people always want to know these things, so I'm emphasizing this.
Yeah.
As ambassadors and people who are out there, don't forget that there are amazing presentations that, you know, Elaine Denton, as former town councilor, always did these amazing visually driven budget presentations where she broke that down for people for the budget things, and they're all on the website. So you can be like, you want to see exactly like what you know, the town, the presentations, and she did decent, like, well, how does assessment work and why is it this way? If you want to.
oh, I should go see that. See,
All on
that's,
there.
yeah, so
Great
we didn't
ones.
know that,
And
yeah.
also like why, how's assessment different than taxing, like just to show people.
Well, and I think if we could always talk about fiscal responsibility, because one thing we learned with watershed is how much time the highway department's got to do clearing out culverts.
mitigation
for
and
the
stuff, yeah.
mitigations, right? So the more, less water that goes into the sewer, or if people stop raking the leaves onto the street.
Or blowing their grass clippings
Instead of
in
the
the.
street,
And like we all know, the
Yeah.
maintenance that we
Yeah.
do, not deferring maintenance, you know, and
Right.
things. And I think like this building right now, the fact is, for the town hall stuff, I
Yeah.
think it has to be clear to people that paying for the elementary school, for the police department, paying for this building is, you know, how it's all working.
Yeah,
It
I
makes
think
sense
it-
versus consolidating.
Right,
and all that
versus when you
stuff.
see 2 million in the paper,
Yeah.
and you're saying, wait a minute, right? And your argument is, wait, show what's the current cost to run the place? How is this gonna improve finances down the
I
road?
think it
right?
helps like quell preemptively
Yeah.
like complaints or having to deal with like noise and feedback. If
Mhm.
you're kind
Totally.
of are proactive about it.
Totally.
I think though, you also have to keep in mind is that people, I think it's repetitive over and over again, that.
You can't hear it
that
once.
It's the village of Fayetteville, the village of Manlius, and the town of Manlius.
They don't know the difference.
They don't know the difference.
Yeah.
And then you're not getting all the information that we're getting regarding the sidewalk districts. There's like maybe a little disconnect that we get about, because the social media and the trend of being able to, and go into the meetings and saying what the sidewalk district is
Yeah,
and
then
how
there's
it
the school-
works.
And your taxes are, it's the school tax, the town actually.
And the
doesn't do
library.
it.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
So
I heard you mention school taxes, Sarah, and I think there's a lot of information on the school district website about how our school budget and how that's developed and showing where different areas where it increases. But I think that working together, the school districts and the town and villages to communicate not only with each other, but then out to the community about how we are working together. Because like this last election, I heard from a lot of people who were saying, you know, my taxes went up. I'm not voting for the school budget. You know, it's the school's fault that my taxes are going up. You know, and there are a lot of people.
Pitting us against each other is right, exactly, or pitting the towns and the schools against
Right,
each other.
so we need to show how we all work together. But there is, I think, a growing population of people who feel like they're not gonna be able to afford to live in this area anymore. You know, they feel like they're getting pushed out because, you know, they have very limited income. And they did see a lot of increase in their tax assessment. So I think figuring out a way to engage and speak to that particular segment of people who don't have kids in the schools anymore, you know, but who've lived here a very long time and they feel sort of disenfranchised because they're seeing their assessments go up, but their income isn't. And they're worried about being able to live here.
Right, and that's kind of exactly to the point that I'm making, is that you have that subset that number one is upset that their assessments have increased exponentially, they're on a fixed income. And now there's in the paper about sidewalks and they think, now I'm gonna have to pay for sidewalks, you know, it's kind of just getting out there and explaining, but I think we need to be really careful. There's so many people, especially on our side, that really can't
Well,
afford.
and I think there's, both of you are making a very good point about how it's a multiple, the assessments,
2 years in a row, going up like
Went up a
12%
lot.
is a lot.
and then,
Right, we agree.
Mine's a
but the taxes are,
the 4 or 5 years that we've lived there.
But the taxes are all, confusing people. So.
Right. Because they come
we
to our
can
board
share with
meeting.
the fire departments and with the, school districts, and this is the whole picture, because when you're looking at your budget, it's the whole picture. I don't care which money is going to whom.
Mhm.
It's all taxes to me when I'm paying my
Right.
bills. So I think looking at that as a broader thing and kind of maybe making some of those pie charts and stuff that really shows a whole
That
picture,
helps.
that's gonna make it a lot
And show
easier.
the,
for people to
showing the
understand.
community, like, we put ourselves in your shoes, we didn't just do our little piece, we're like, we imagined, we put the whole pie together here and sat down with all our partners as if we're you, you're me, we're all the taxing bodies together, looking at your experience. I mean, I think that would be an important, I would like to see everybody together doing that.
I think also helps with those committees. We could get that information out there to communicate and build up that now. I mean, it's the word of mouth. You talk to them, well, this is what it really means. Or that's not really the town, that's the village.
Right.
I think that word of mouth
And
is
when you
key.
talk to neighbors, the neighbors could be in a different fire district or a different school,
Right.
like, so their taxes are not the same.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that they're being unfair, and so it's really hard for people, particularly in social media where you don't know exactly where people live. And they say, oh, it went up 50% or whatever, well, we don't know why that happened for you.
So this was Marissa's idea, so I am not taking it, I'm just so Marissa, I am gonna just reinforce what you said, cause it just made sense to me. I think the comprehensive plan committee is saying to the town, to the deputy supervisor, we want a comprehensive conversation with all the taxing bodies together about what the experience
Great
is
idea.
like for
And
taxpayers.
creates more transparency.
To create more
Yes.
transparency and to really be honest with what the experience is like for a resident, period.
In terms of cost.
In terms of cost, because we all love, because don't pit us
School
against each
the
other, any of the,
village,
we all love to live here. And it makes it a lot easier if we really think about this.
So you're saying Marissa's gonna spearhead that?
No.
I'm just kidding, Marissa.
No, but you know
But
what?
I think it does.
But we
make
have
it-
school
yeah.
bodies too.
I
Pete.
do
We
need a
have
new project, actually.
There you
But
go.
I do think this is important. I think costs are so hard to understand because like Sarah is just like, and Marissa pointed out, there's multiple layers to all these things. Like not everybody lives in the FM district. Not everybody lives in the town of Manlius that goes to FM,
Right,
right? Not everybody who, ESM is part of that Manlius too, right?
some people in ESL live and do it.
Right.
I live in Madison County, yeah.
Oh, you're part of,
Not me, but like if you go further.
oh, right, the top, the school
Bridgeport.
district, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think somehow getting an understanding of how that works, because I still don't, and I should understand it, but I don't.
So I think this is a good, because it goes with comprehensive, I think this is a good outgrowth of this discussion. And I appreciate that sort of coming up out of what was on people's minds. And of course, right now, assessment is kind of a hot topic. So I think this was great. And I think that, so what I have out of this is, because I'm gonna go my.
You hung up on
Marissa's still here, so
No,
we can hang
Marissa's
out.
here.
I just-
Thank you.
Oh, no, it's not the time. I don't know.
I'm still
Sorry.
here. I don't know if y'all can see me. I can see you guys sometimes, but I didn't know.
So I think we just disappeared, but you're still here, Marissa. So here's what I have for sort of the, some things to watch out for is one, town center is a great opportunity. We should continue to engage with town center.
Yep.
We want to have predictable zoning that maintains community character. So we don't want to have every year, like we totally change something. So we want to make sure we're keeping it. We're going to really focus on supporting green spaces and active mobility, that they're not identical, but they kind of go together. So and there's a few individual corridors, Berwick Street and 257, kind of identified as being places we want to focus on for that. We're gonna look at something around tourism broadly, like opportunistically. If something comes up, we're gonna try to jump on it that has to do with either agritourism or the Erie Canal or both, that those are opportunities for us. And we're gonna continue to engage this group in dialogue. When something new comes up, it's just to maybe just pop an email with, or a link to the website and say, this is going on.
That'd be great.
We're gonna have a public hearing. Why don't you make sure you and your associates knew about that or whatever? We could do a better job of that. You still are not a group in my email, I don't know why, but I have to go through every single name, so I think I can make you a group, and just hit a button and it'll get things
Okay.
easier. And then this last one is really having more of a comprehensive communication strategy around assessment, taxes, districts, village, county, state, all of that stuff, which unless you happen to be a social studies teacher, you really don't pay enough attention to. So just having everybody kind of know those things, or be able to find it. Like somebody complains and say, well, it's right here, go look it up. It's right here and an easy way to find. So by this time next year, there'd be some kind of a easy to use visual communication piece that kind of illustrates.
Some kid could make an amazing statistician thing for us and could do a thing where you like plug in your address or whatever, and they could show it like.
Absolutely, yeah.
And they could show you like how things have changed and all your stats and show you for every little thing, like what percent is whatever, and then.
What percentage goes to the school, what percentage? goes
Yeah,
to-
and then see how things have changed over the years, and then it would be crazy.
Yeah. No, I think that kind of thing is fine. We do, there's sidebar to all this. The town is invested in a GIS, so we will be able to have a lot more cool maps next year too. So some of this could be actually where you plug in your address and it tells you.
That'd be awesome. Okay, all right.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Sarah.
Till next year.
Sarah, yay.
Thank you, Karen.
I'm sorry for the people who had things come up, but they will be able to see the recording, and we will invite their comments as well.
Thank you for everything.
Great to hear the
See
aquatic
you.
center moving forward. That is exciting. to
We'll
hear.
see.
Keep going. Keep the good work.
It's
John, I
gonna
will
be a
email
lot
you
of
for the
work.
Three Falls Woods info.
You want?
I will
Falls?
email you for the Three Falls Woods info. When is
Oh, about the,
planting?
you mean the
Yeah.
tree planting? and
Yeah,
everything?
when is it?
It'll be in the fall